Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Divine Feminine Healers Podcast. It is your host, Angelica, here, and today's a special episode because it's just me. I'm doing a solo cast because it was my birthday last week and I turned the big 3-0. I'm entering a new decade, and I wanted to take this time to really reflect on all the lessons that I've learned in my 20s, see if it relates to a lot of you. I know a lot of you are going through your Saturn Return, which happens to be at the end of our 20s, going into our 30s. So I think you can relate to a lot of the lessons that I've learned in my 20s, what I'm kissing goodbye to. And I wanted to end on a high note of 30 things that I am loving on that are just my favorite right now to inspire you as well. So when I think about my 20s, and if I were to think about the core lesson that I keep learning time and time again, I nail this down to trusting my intuition. And this becomes part of my personal mythology. I actually got that term from my mentor. And this is something that we have to know on our healing journey because it's that wound that keeps showing up and up again. But if we can get behind it and understand what is that thread that is always woven into our story, then we understand where our patterns are and we can reprogram them. So this is something that I go in deep with all the women in my certification program. We need to know our personal mythology so that we can get to the root cause of what's causing all the imbalances. So for me personally, it's trusting my intuition. And I outsource, or I used to in my 20s, I used to outsource my power a lot to gurus, to teachers, to people that I highly respected and revered. And I've been blessed with some of amazing teachers and gurus. However, when I give away my power or my intuition in someone else's hands, I'm neglecting all this power and this intuition that I already have innately within me. We all have within us. And by doing that, I actually get off the path more. Even if it's coming from someone who is so enlightened and such a high vibrational being, it's crazy that you truly have to always follow what feels alive for you in that moment. And I change all the time, like the moon. And my friends know this about me. I go through so many different phases where I'm completely different one time. But if you know me at the core of who I am, you know that that never changes. So it's really important that while I'm going through all these transformations, again, my moon is in Scorpio. Scorpio is such a transformative sign. So as I'm going through all these transitions and shifts, it's helpful that I always have my intuition. That is like my backbone that I always can come back to no matter what, trusting the voice within me. And oh my gosh, I took a whole decade to start strengthening it and to actually realize that it's a voice within me. And it's crazy. I have a lot of intuitive gifts, but one of them that has become very potent and something I've been aware of is my gift of clairaudience, which is being able to hear voices and messages. And that has always been really clear for me, but I've awakened more to it in my 20s. And it'll actually sound like myself, that tone of voice. However, it has more of an angelic rhythm to it, and it comes from a higher source, so it'll never shame me or never guilt me, but it's always looking out for what is my highest purpose and what is best for me. And whenever I come back and I can listen to that voice within me, even if it's sometimes it's not what I want to hear in that moment, I know that I could trust that voice and that's going to guide me out of whatever challenge or obstacle that I am currently in. So this trust first began on a body level, how most healers enter this world. I needed to start trusting my body's messages. So I actually started this whole holistic journey because I had IBS and amenorrhea, and I wanted a holistic way to start healing it. So I sought out yoga first. Yoga was something that so innate within me. I grew up as a dancer, so very connected to my body, and yoga was a way that I could stay connected to my body. And when I learned the mind and body connection in yoga, it was like a love affair. It was everything that I knew I loved about dance, but it seemed to hit me even on a deeper level of healing. And I just got addicted to it. And through yoga and getting my certification, I was introduced to Ayurveda, and Ayurveda kept calling me in. I kept hearing the name pop up. And finally, on my journey of finding a way to heal myself holistically, I enrolled to become an Ayurvedic health practitioner. And listening to that voice inside me, although it seems pretty simple saying it out loud right now, was really difficult. At the time, I was in fashion PR. I was in completely different world than the wellness and spirituality world, and it was very scary shifting in from a whole new world. And that was such a huge part of my journey because it helped me realize how confident I can be in myself when I'm making these transformations and these shifts. And it was scary because not always having the support of family and friends during that time. And not that I don't have a huge support system and support team, but when you're shifting and changing all the time, it can be scary for them too, because what they identified with you and where they connected with you on a certain level, that part is dying for them too. So it's truly an ego death on all accounts, and it can be really difficult to make that transformation and make that shift. So what I learned is not only can I make that shift from going from one career to another, but I can also start to make that shift when I am realizing what my true desires are. So that brings me to the next layer of trusting my intuition, which was trusting my desires, trusting my emotions and where they were pulling me to. So at the time when I was feeling disconnected from body and mind again, so after I'd already gone through the healing process as an Ayurvedic practitioner and healed a lot of my imbalances, I was going through this another up level again. And I kept feeling the call to move back out to California and to build a life out there. I just loved my lifestyle when I lived out there, being close to the ocean, being closer to nature, and also just being around a community that was more like-minded. Oftentimes in cities, even as something as progressive as Chicago, it was really hard finding like-minded women who were thinking like me, and also entrepreneurs who were in the wellness and spirituality world. I didn't have other people who are doing things like me. And I find that seeing to believing is so important so that we can have role models and have examples. Although I love being a trailblazer and doing something different than my family and friends, it is also, I need that bit of support and motivation. So I started to learn that these desires are actually the keys to my future success. So a lot of times I think we think desires can be demonic or they can be ego based. Like, of course, everyone wants to move to California and live in warm weather and have an easy breezy life. And oh, it's a fairy tale world out there, whatever the story is. I think that it's really important that as an intuitive, you're really strong in trusting your desires, that this isn't some lofty fairy tale idea, but this comes from a core need and want that I have that is going to help me grow as a person. So once I really trusted that and I casted the manifestation, I remember I would visualize exactly where I am right now, which is so wild, running on the beach and seeing the mountains and the beach, which is where my view is right now. And I just kept coming back to that visualization, not even knowing that that was a manifestation technique, just because I truly wanted that feeling of what it was like to be there. And a couple years later, and I manifested the perfect apartment exactly that I wanted to live in. So it's really cool to see when you start to trust your intuition, where it can really lead you. So trusting my physical body was the first layer about it, kind of like early to mid 20s, and then trusting my emotions and my desires had definitely become part of my journey going from upper 20s into 30s. And that is because as a moon in Scorpio, I have been disconnected from my emotions a lot just because they can be so overwhelming that I'm used to numbing or avoiding my emotions because they're big and they're intense. And part of what I've learned throughout my 20s is learning to trust my emotions and learning how to heal and process them, which of course is part of my offering. A huge part of what I talk to with you all so much is how we can truly process and build a relationship with our emotions, because they're intelligent. There's so much wisdom behind them. And I'm so happy that I started to listen to them. And the last part of trust really came into trusting my inner spirit and truly that guiding compass. And you could say that the mind, the body, and the emotion, the spirit, they're really all interconnected together. But my linear mind sometimes like to segment things like this. So the last part was really trusting where I wanted to take my business and where my vision for it was. And some of you know I had a business partner prior to this before I broke off into my own, and that was really a transformational experience. It was very difficult to let go of that old identity of my business and that relationship that I had with someone that we were so close with. And it was really hard when you love someone so much to change that and to redefine the relationship that you have with them. And for so long, I was fighting that, and I was growing our vision together. And ultimately, I had to realize that in order for my vision to truly come into life, that I had to go on my own. And this was such a hard truth for me. One of the hardest truths I think I learned in my 20s, and I learned it right at the end. And I'm very grateful for my Saturn return. For those who don't know, Saturn return is when Saturn goes back to its same sign where it was natally for you. And that's where you learn a lot of obstacles and challenges, but ultimately helps you grow and feels empowered. And I grew a lot from that experience. And I'm so happy because once I was able to really trust myself again in my business and take the vision to where I wanted to, I started to see so many things align back in my world again. One of them was coming back to my body. Whenever I'm out of balance, my body always speaks to me in that way, whether it's digestive issues or reproductive issues. This is something that's a constant journey for me, is working on my hormone imbalances, but it totally shifted once I was able to step into my own business. That was taking a huge step for it. And I also want to talk a little bit more about that piece too, because I think a lot of times we have a lot of an inner critic voice, being in the seat of a healer, that we don't experience any imbalances and we're healed from something. When it comes back again, that means that we're not a sufficient healer. And that's definitely a story I used to tell myself. And now I've really accepted that this hormone imbalance that I have in my body, this is a karma, and I've definitely healed so many layers to it. And I'm so proud of where I've gotten. And every single time that that comes up again, it's actually a gift, because I realize where I'm out of balance with my mind, my body, and my spirit, and where I have the opportunity to redirect. So I'm so grateful for all those lessons in my 20s, because it redirected me on my path back to body, back to trusting my emotions, back to aligning with my soul's purpose. And I feel so connected more than ever right now. And I'm so grateful for it. This new, beautiful community that I've created, and all the women in there are just such angels. And it's cool that we connect from all over the world, and getting to witness their deep transformations and healings, and getting to totally take off with my vision that I have for my business, and see all the abundance that has come from it, and everything that I have grown with it, and officially making my certification program. So I've had this program for quite a few years that I've been building on, and just this past year I wanted to get it accredited from proper schools, and now it's a double certification program to become an Ayurvedic health coach and a Reiki master. And it's something that I'm so proud of, and this program continues to grow. I'm actually doing fall enrollment at the fall equinox, so around September 21st. And this year, or this next round, I'm going to have it be a full year program, just because I want to dive deeper in with all of you. And I'm noticing that in a year, so much more transformation happens, that I can guide you through those obstacles and challenge, and kind of witness you as you go through those big transformations, and give you more of the tools and resources when it starts to get hard. So I'm so excited for the group that is already interested in this program and where we're going to go with it. So if you are interested in becoming an intuitive healer and becoming an Ayurvedic health coach and or a Reiki master, then I totally encourage you to take the next step, whatever that means. If that's looking into a program, if you feel connected to my program, you can find the details in the show notes. Again, it's a 12-month program. We meet 3 times per month, always having one week off of the month. And we go deep into Ayurveda yoga, but also Vedic astrology and Kundalini yoga. It's truly a holistic program in that sense, where I use all the Vedic sciences that I've learned, and I bring them all together, because each of them has been so incremental in my healing journey. So it really is a one-stop shop type of program, if that is what you're looking for. And also, community is really important for me as well, so that while you're on this healing journey, that you feel supported, you don't feel like you're on your island doing it alone. So you just have be welcomed in with the best women who are compassionate and loving and here to support you on your journey. So you can find more details for the program with the link in the show notes. And if you would like to apply for the program, applications are totally necessary. You can just apply with the link that I'll have in the show notes as well, and that will also give you a one-on-one call with me. So I keep this group pretty small just because we go really deep. I want to make sure that everyone feels really safe and held in this community. So with the application, you'll also be guided to have a one-on-one call with me, where we'll see if it's a best fit for the program for both of us. So that is a very wrap version of what happened in my 20s, but kind of just distilling down the major turning points. And now I want to go into 30 things that I'm loving currently in my life that's feeling good in my mind, body, and soul. And like I said, like the moon, I change all the time. So this stuff might change in a couple of days, even. The first thing that I'm loving on, I mean, I don't think this will ever change, it's nature. So I have been wanting to be more adventurous and get out in the world. I feel like still digesting the grief of COVID times and being inside, and I could definitely be a very inward person and like my alone time, but I'm trying to push myself to go out into the world lately. And I actually went on a trip to the Sequoias for my birthday weekend, and it was so special. I camped there for a night, and I love trees. I feel very connected to the ancient wisdom of trees, and saw the biggest tree in the whole entire world and just these huge trunks. And oh my goodness, that's just so majestic. And when you go all the way up in the mountains too, the air is just so clear and crisp, and the smell of burning fire is my favorite smell ever. And being able to see all the stars at night. I mean, obviously I'm always living in cities, whether that's LA or Chicago. I never get to see the star sky. So it is so special, and it's such a cleanse. And I am actually going up to Big Sur this weekend with my family, and I'm so excited. I feel so grateful for all these nature opportunities that I have. I mean, living in California, it's at my fingertips at all times, but it really just grounds me, brings me back to center, and it helps me get out of my head. A lot of times I'm so focused on my business and tending to my community, it fills me up so much, but I can get kind of pitta laser focused on that I kind of forget about the outside world. So this brings back to why I'm here on this earth when I am out in nature. I'm also loving work boundaries lately. So for me, this is more on a personal level. I boundaries are a constant for me, constantly having to renegotiate them and seeing what my needs and wants are, because they constantly shift. As I said, they shift. I shift all the time with the moon. So of course my needs and wants are going to shift. But for me personally, these work boundaries are shifting because I am seeing how I can focus my energy on specific days of the week on certain projects. And actually for a couple of years now, I've been working on aligning my internal rhythms with the cycles of the moon. So when the moon is waxing, it's in the pitta phase, and it's when I can feel really productive. And when it's a new moon, and when I get my menstruation cycle, it's a time of rest and rejuvenation. And when the moon is just starting to wax from the new moon again, I'm in that creative, collaborative energy of Kappa. I talk about this on my Instagram, so you can read that post on there, Angelica at Feminine Healer. I'll have that linked in the show notes too. But it's been so helpful for me to align my business with nature so that it feels really fruitful, because I was noticing that my energy was leaking in certain areas, like constantly checking my Instagram to see if I can connect and comment back to our community right away, or responding to emails every single time that they come in. But if I can segment that and focus it and structure it to the planets and to the cycles of the moon, it has been feeling so much better. I feel like my energy is more direct. I'm closing in those leaky valves, and my energy is just feeling more full. So what's also really cool about it is that on a daily basis, each day is represented by a different planet. Monday is represented by the moon. Tuesday is represented by Mars. So I've actually organized my tasks to the planets. Now, for some of you, you're like, well, that just seems too complicated. And it did for me in the beginning until I took it step by step. And now my schedule is feeling really good. I feel like I'm in alignment with nature, and I'm just loving it. So I had to share that. Number three, I am been having more balanced Ayurvedic meals. So making sure that I have all six tastes in my meals, and a certain amount of protein and fats and carbs and vegetables has been so helpful for me and making me feel really grounded and stabilizing my nervous system. I was completely plant-based and vegan for a year now, and I love that part of me, and it was a lot of high prana in the beginning, and then it was taking a toll on my digestive system and my hormones for sure. So I've been called recently to add in more fish into my diet, and maybe even starting to have more eggs in my diet again. And it's just been feeling really good to have more of these fats and more balance in my meals. So I'm loving that. Ayurveda is always the way. I find that sometimes I go through phases with Ayurveda too. I'm sure as Ayurvedic practitioners, I know a lot of you listen to this, you can relate. It's like sometimes you want to rebel and you go against it, and then I always come back home to it. I'm also loving planning my weekend. So I'm noticing as I get older that sometimes I love spontaneity and just new ideas and just going right into it. But I'm also finding that that can be destabilizing to my nervous system, and I can't always do that. So I've been trying to kind of plan my weekends out more where I can have more of this adventure, because by the end of the week, I'm like exhausted and I don't have the energy to create these adventurous plans. So I've been trying to plan my weekends ahead in true Pitta fashion so that I can feel adventurous and have more fun and more of that balance in my life. I'm also loving comedy shows. I'm always a big lover of comedy. I have seen pretty much every stand-up on Netflix. So if you have any suggestions, I'm always looking for new ones. And I love going to outdoor comedy shows. It's become quite a thing in LA. I don't know if it has been in other cities too, but it's so fun. There's just the energy there, and being outside and getting a good laugh is just my favorite. I love the witty humor. I love the beach. That's always a old and faithful thing about me. I have to live near bodies of water. I live right by the ocean. Going to the beach, there's just something, nothing like it, honestly. Dipping into this salt water and it's just like a total rebirth. I love it. I also love astral traveling. So this is something that I dive into with all the members in my Reiki master who go through my Reiki master certification in my program. And astral traveling is something I've done since I was a kid. It's definitely an intuitive gift I've had since the dawn of time. And I love it. It's so fun. My dreams are honestly sometimes so vivid that sometimes I don't know if I'm in this real world or if I'm in the dream world. So sometimes I have to ask people, did that actually happen or was that in my dream? Because that's how real my dreams are for me. And I love them because there's a lot of soul healing that I do in my astral dreams where I wake up, and because I remember them so clearly, I know exactly what I was releasing, what emotions it was. It may even have been a relationship that I needed to heal that I got to witness. And it's cool because you get to really see what's in your subconscious mind, especially as someone who has a habit of avoiding their emotions and their feelings. It's really helpful to see, oh, that's still sticky, that's still there, and I need to tend to that a little bit more. So that's been just coming on so vibrantly lately. Like I definitely go through phases where my dreams are more clearer than others, but that's been really cool to see. And I've had some pretty radical experiences. I kind of shared it on previous episodes of the podcast, but hopefully when I have more of those in the future, I'll share more of them with you. Oh, this next one's so basic, but it's what I love. I love Erewhon. It is this market in LA that has all local, natural, and organic products. And I love it because it's honestly very stimulating when you go in there. I have this thing with grocery stores that I love so much. I feel at home there and I just love all the foods. And I honestly could just walk around there and I wouldn't need to buy anything, although I do buy a lot there. So Aowan is so great. It just gives me yummy, ready to go food that's organic, that's cooked with organic oils. I know when I was going to other markets before, I would always see like canola oil, and that's such a bummer. I don't cook with those oils. So if I wanted something quick and easy to go, or just to have a nice meal out for myself, I wouldn't want to use those type of oils. So that's what I love about Erewhon. It's just all organic. I can really trust all the ingredients, and there's always fun new local brands that I could support there that I could buy and I get to try and interact with. And I love brands. That's why I work with a lot of brand partners who are always following a dharmic mission. I'm very clear about who I work with, and I love learning about new products. I find them so fascinating, and I'm so in awe of those who have product-based businesses. You'll hear this a lot when I have them on the podcast because that is a whole different world than a service-based industry. I've also been loving hot yoga and slow strength. So what's been feeling really healing for my nervous system is slowing things down. I started running earlier this year, and just recently my body is like, I don't want to run anymore. I just want to take long walks. I want slow and strengthening exercises again. So it's been really healing to come back to that. And I love how I can be totally conscious and aware when I'm doing that really slow, burning movements, and you feel it more because you're more conscious of what muscles are working and activating, and your nervous system can stay stabilized the whole time. You're not going to these different levels of intensity. So I've always been a huge lover of that, but it's definitely been a huge reminder of me to come back. And even though I am Pitta by nature, I do love hot yoga because it helps to ground me and calm me, and it's so cleansing. Now at the end, I definitely give myself a proper cool down, and even the yoga studio that I teach at and that I frequent, they give cool lavender towels that you put over your forehead, so it's the perfect pitta balance. I've also been loving walks, as I just mentioned. So I go on these long walks along the beach and being out in nature. Sometimes I listen to a podcast. Sometimes it's my time to really just unwind and not think about anything. So I try not to bring my phone sometimes when I go on walks, and just being out in nature. And it's such a gift when I can really do that. I'm definitely a knowledge and information junkie. I've had issues with digesting too much information all at once. So when I can go on walks and not listen to anything or even talking to anyone, it's super healing. Oh, massages. I love massages. I am Taurus rising. So any type of touch and sensuality and healing in that sense is my fave. I just found a massage therapist in LA from a recommendation from actually another podcast that I love to listen to. And this therapist is just beyond. It's such a treat when I can treat myself and go there. And I love deep tissue massages because they really help to calm and relax my nervous system. I feel like I can really be in my body and feel grounded when I am in a massage. I love my women in my community. They are just the best. I was thinking about this today. They're actual angels in my community that I've been gifted. All of them such pure souls, such pure intentions, wanting to help heal the world, follow a life of dharma. And I am so humbled by them and all the beautiful work that they're doing in this world and committing to themselves. The women, whether that's in my membership program or the women who are in my certification program, taking that leap to really start giving back to themselves. Because a lot of times I find that we have this wound that we can't put ourselves first. But when you take that first step in putting yourself first and realizing that that is what's going to bring the support and nourishment to your family or your loved ones and your friends even more, oh, it's magnetic. It really is. I crave witnessing transformations. And right now, the one in my certification program, we're on module 3. So we're almost hitting our halfway mark, and it's really cool. I'm just starting to see that, oof, we're turning a corner here. Women are seeing what it means to emotionally heal, how to release some of that baggage so they're not weighed down by it anymore. Setting boundaries, huge monumental moment for one of the members in my certification program. She set a boundary with her loved one, and they both felt more nourished after. That's when you know it's a good boundary. Even if you feel there's some conflict in the beginning, being able to express or communicate that boundary, ultimately it is best for both parties when it's a strong and heart-centered boundary. So I'm just loving on them lately, and I'm just so proud of them. You'll hear me talk about them all the time because I am just the best proud teacher over here. Okay, next on my list, going along with healing in my community, are grief rituals. This is something that I learned from my mentor, and what a gift is to learn grief rituals. So grief is something that is not talked about in our society. It's something that we are constantly experiencing on gross levels and subtle levels, shifting identities, losing actual people in our life that were a huge part of our own identity. But every cycle of the moon, we have a huge identity shift that happens, and there's emotions that need to be released, and there's constant letting go and stepping into a new identity. That's just one piece of grief. There's so many other pieces to it. And when we come together in ritual and really honor the ancient tradition of where grief rituals came from, my teacher learned from a Native American tribe, and this is just a part of their practice. And it's so beautiful to witness when someone can truly be in their grief, to truly break down their walls and feel vulnerable. And wow, I'm longing for this. A part of me longs for this, or a part of me really misses this aspect of myself. And to see those walls breaking down is just, it's beautiful. There's so much beauty in the grief. And we live in a world of polarity. So by being able to experience this grief, we also create space for joy, and experiencing joy to its fullest extent. that's what this healing is for. And I'm so grateful for the grief rituals that I'm in my own support community, and the ones that I offer in my own community. Being able to witness it, being able to also engage in them has been an incremental part of my healing journey. Next on my list is celebrating. So this is something that I find is difficult for pittas. So something that I'm difficult at doing at times is I crush a goal and then I move on to the next one. Or if I didn't totally make that goal, I'm like, should have did better. What can you have done better? Okay, let's attack the next goal with this mindset. And then I miss being grateful for that milestone that I already made and understanding how much success I actually had in that, whether I made that goal or not. What did I actually learn, whether that number reflected that or not? And that's been so huge for me, because when I talk about manifestation and being able to attract abundance into your life, part of that is being really grateful for everything that you have. So, by denying how that manifestation came through, you're denying all the growth and success that you're experiencing right now. So I have been making lists of everything that I'm proud of myself on a daily basis, everything that I'm grateful for. And it's really expanded my heart, and being able to see, wow, there's so much here. And I have other goals. And of course, I'm working towards creating a more fulfillment in my life. And I can also be super grateful for everything that I have created and finding nourishment and support there, because we're always going to be wanting more. And it's about pausing and celebrating the here and the now. Okay, the next one on this list is really funny. Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I love this show so much. It's on Hulu for those who want to explore. This was a show growing up. I loved anything to do with witches and magic growing up, and this show was like it for me as a kid. And I am so grateful for it, that I refound it again. It's just lighthearted. It's perfect pick me up type of show. It's hilarious, and I just love magic. Like, again, like I think with manifestation, a lot of it is seeing to believe. So seeing that magic is real in all these different ways, I'm like, yeah, that can totally happen. There's yogis in the Himalayas who can definitely do that. It's just been so cool to see. So I highly recommend 10 out of 10. Get back into Sabrina the Teenage Witch. So good. Next, I have Smelling the Roses. Oh, so when I go on my walks, this is something that I try to do. There's a lot of rose bushes in Venice when I go on my walks. So every single time I see a rose bush, I stick my nose right into it. And oh my God, have you smelled the rose recently? It is intoxicating. It just awakens all of our senses. And there's nothing more grounding and stabilizing to my nervous system than that. That's it. Crepas. So crepas are oil pastels, and part of my healing has been using different forms of art expression. I'm a dancer by nature, so movement is a non-negotiable for me. However, I'm also noticing that there's a lot of other creative art tools that I could be using for my healing journey. So I've been working with oil pastels, and I love it. It just glides against the canvas, and all these vibrant colors that I can work with. It's been really helpful for my emotional healing. And it's something that we are bringing to our Divine Feminine Collective, my spiritual membership, because there's so many ways to process emotions, and art therapy has been super healing. Oh, next on my list. Oh, I love this. Okay, so Italian retreat dreaming. I love going on Pinterest, picking me a vision board and decorating the hell out of it. It's just something that I love it. So I lately have been really manifesting my Italian retreat place. My dad is born in Italy. I am working to have dual citizenship there, and my dream is to have a retreat center there that we can go and we have these beautiful retreats. I know all the women in my community are anxious to meet in person and commune together, so that is something that's on my list. Personally, I love the south coast of Italy the best. Give me an ocean, give me a cliff. That's all I need. I love the cuisine in South Italy and Southern Italy. Positano and Sorrento are like one of my favorite towns right now in Italy, but there's so many. It's really hard to pick. Like truly everywhere in Italy is so unique and incredible in its own way. But that is something that I'm bringing to the forefront. So start saving now, people, because it's going to happen. Oh, dressing up. I love expressing myself through my clothes. Right now, I have been loving shopping for new clothes. Just put it point blank. I am a Taurus by nature and I love clothes. Something that I get to myself for my birthday is going shopping. And I really see this as a form of creative expression because it really, you can match your energy to where you wear. And this is something that I had actually a specialist on. Her name is Susanna Merrick. And the episode I think it's about aura wears. And I actually look it up right now for you so you can look back on it. And I love her idea of being able to change your wardrobe to match your aura energy. So she can see auras and she can help you find what your style is and how you can match that to your intuition. And it does make a difference because if you are dressed to feel alive in your body and you feel incredible, that's going to translate to every aspect of your life. It's called How to Style Your Aura. And it was in December 2021 if you want to go watch that episode. Okay, I'm also loving a good big hair clip. Love it. Putting up my long hair, one little clip, then I'm done and it doesn't crink my hair. Give me all the big hair clips. I'm all about it lately. Honoring my moon cycle. This is huge for me. As I told you, hormone imbalances is a constant reoccurrence for me that I'm starting to learn and heal deeper layers of. So aligning with the cycles of the moon, like I said, I already aligned my work to the different planet days, and aligning to the actual cycles of the moon is just becoming a solid thing in my life that I need. I noticed that if I am not resting during that week where it's a new moon, my body's going to tell me right away that I need to rest and I need to chill. And I love it because that's also the time when I get all my intuitive messages and I can plan for the month or the couple of months ahead. It's been super essential, honestly, for my physical health and also for the health of my business, which is pretty much one and the same. Learning Vedic astrology. Like I said, I have to be learning something all the freaking time. And learning Vedic astrology, nothing lights me up more. I can go down so many rabbit holes with it because there's so many aspects of Vedic astrology, but truly, I love learning about astrology and the stars because who doesn't love learning more about themselves and all the different ways that we can heal and where we may have blockages and certain karmas, and also knowing like why we're so incredible. That's why I think Vedic astrology is so fun, and that's what I bring to a lot in my certification program. When we learn Vedic astrology, you learn what your unique gifts are that's written in the stars, and you learn all the beautiful aspects about yourself. It's so fun. I mean, we need more of that. We need more confidence in how freaking incredible we are as humans, so unique and individual and yet all connected together. Give me all the resources for that. Next, resetting boundaries. So I know we talked about my personal business boundaries, but I have been getting the message that I really need to recalibrate boundaries. So I'm noticing this with my friend groups, or in my own household, just needing to communicate. This is what I need in order to feel successful today. And that's hard for me. Communicating my needs and wants is something that I'm always working on. So that has been very fruitful and super simple and easy. Once you do it, it's set, you get your needs met, and it's done. Of course, I know they're not always as easy, but start off with the small stuff first. And if you want more help with boundaries, I actually did a whole IG Live masterclass on this. It's on my IG page. So you can find that if you just look under videos. It's a little harder here, but there's so much juicy information on that. And also how you can understand what dosha recommendations for specific boundaries. So helpful. Okay, the affirmation that I'm working with on right now is if it costs my nervous system, it is too much. If my nervous system is dysregulated, it is not worth it. And I'm noticing this in the small, subtle movements, like if I'm taking a yoga class and I feel the intensity of wanting to do a certain pose or wanting to go not to the nines with something, it's just not worth it. If I'm going to lose my breath or try to hold my breath trying to do that, then I'm kind of missing the whole point there. So that's on the subtle level. And then on the grosser level, I'm noticing this with my practices. I'm noticing this when I'm in conversation where my body tightens and tenses up and what my nervous system response is and how I can come back to a point of center. It's something that I'm working on a lot with my mentor right now, is understanding my nervous system response is to fight, like push through it, you could do it. And I'm learning to come back to a point of center. It's what the yogis always teach. Always coming back to these Vedic sciences, and it's always like I'm discovering them for new. That's why they're so special. So I'm definitely working on my fight response, coming to a state of peace, and wow, so much fulfillment from serving from that place rather than fighting through it. Next on my list, working at cafes. I love this. So I work from home all the time. I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm actually looking for more collaborative spaces. That is how I get a lot of my energy, is being around other people. So I love finding a new coffee shop, being around that entrepreneur energy of people who are working on their own, getting myself a cup of tea. Oh, it is just the best. Ooh, sunset walks. So it's been getting pretty hot here in LA. Now that we're inching towards mid-August and September, walking at night, I love it. Basking underneath the moon, getting to catch the sunset, that cool breeze. There's nothing better than a warm summer night to me. That is like one of my all-time favorite things ever. Oh, I love brands. So the current brands that I'm loving on, I'm loving Rasa Ayurveda, which I'm actually going to have them on the podcast soon. But I started using their Pitta facial cleansers, and I just absolutely love it. You're going to hear more about it when I talk about them and have them on the podcast. I'm also loving Living Libation products. I've always loved them. They actually have a shop in Venice, and that's where I get my toothpaste. That's where I get my soap. Anything that's for my face, cleansing with oils. I actually had Nadine Artemis, who is the founder of Living Libation. She is a wealth of knowledge on holistic beauty and health and beauty for women, and it's a real good episode to listen to. It's called Beauty and Fertility Tips with Nadine Artemis, and what a force to be reckoned with. She just totally gets it, and they have everything that you would possibly need, so definitely check them out. Cold showers. So coming back from my little sweaty walks at night, I love a cold shower. I actually find that this is not dysregulating to my nervous system. It really helps to cool my body and feel super refreshing. So I noticed that cold showers really, I first started doing them in the dead of the winter in Chicago, and that was actually too increasing for my vata. So I know there can be two ways of thinking here, because I know Kundalini yogis, they recommend cold showers, and that's just because in the Himalayas, when they're in the mountains in the winter, that's the option. It's cold water. So they had to grow a tolerance to that and grow a strength in their energy. And of course, there are benefits. I do not deny that. However, I think that we should always come back to, what does our nervous system say? Does it feel stable? Does it feel more refreshed after? Or does it feel more dysregulated after? And I think that really determines on how much vata you have in your body at that time. And the last thing that I'll share of my 30s that I'm loving on is feeling safe and excited to thrive. So this comes back to me just celebrating. I've been in this expansion and abundance portal basically since I've made some significant changes to my business, and it feels so good. And I notice that sometimes when I'm doing really well, I feel guilty for it. I feel guilty for experiencing this abundance when I see that other people around me maybe having obstacles and feeling pain. It's very difficult as an empath and someone who has been enmeshed in other people's emotions and taking responsibility for their successes. It's something that I constantly have to come back to remind myself that I'm separate from that person, and that my ability to thrive is a birthright, and that it is okay to thrive and feel alive in my body. And I'm so grateful for all this abundance that's coming in so many forms in my life. I mean, with these 30 things that I just mentioned, from the level of nature and the subtlety of my breath and my yoga practice, to getting to experience a massive community that I'm building here at the Divine Feminine Healers Academy, and interacting with all of you, and all these new opportunities that are coming my way. I'm so grateful for all of them. And I'm so grateful for all of you, truly. Everyone who's here listening on the podcast, you light me up. I love talking here on the podcast. And if you haven't connected with me yet, please connect with me on Instagram. I promise I read almost every DM. I'm taking a little bit of a social media break this week so that I can reset and reconnect in nature. However, I promise when I'm back, I will get back to you on those messages, but just reach out, let me know what episode you love. And I love connecting with you there, hearing about your healing journey. And if you are looking for support and a community to join, look no further than the Divine Feminine Collective. You have on-demand healing resources at your fingertips whenever you need. And we have live experiences where you get one-on-one coaching. And also that's the best because you get to relate with all the women in the community and realize, wow, I am not alone here. There are other light workers who are on this path, who are interested in the same things in me and so excited to transform and to really feel the depth of their emotions and all that good stuff. So want for information on that, I'll have that link in the show notes for the Divine Feminine Collective, and I'm officially accepting applications for the Divine Feminine Healers Academy. So if you want your double certification, going way deeper into your self-healing process and start to guide others and build a successful spiritual biz, that is the place where to find it. All right, everyone, thank you so much for listening. This was so fun. I hope you enjoyed it too, and I will see you next time.